What if I told you that you could increase your reach for boxing or other combat sports? You could do so immediately, no gimmicks, not talking about anything magic like giving you some kind of surgery or going back in time and changing your parents into people that were a little bit more anthropometrically gifted for boxing, aka long-limbed people. Um, could do so without your opponent realizing that you have this ability, at least not for a long time, and they probably couldn't figure out how you're doing it. And you could do it without any kind of footwork or movement of any other part of your body. You'd probably say that's a pretty valuable tool, right? Let me show you what I mean, right? So, because boxing is kind of stuck in a lot of archaic traditions, one of the things that I noticed is very weak in boxing is their understanding of modern day strength and conditioning methods, especially as it relates to developing strength, power, um, cardio, concepts like stimulus to fatigue ratios, um, and just understanding like the anthropometry of the body. I've been in a lot of boxing gyms that still really believe that like the way to get power is to do like just push-ups and bench press, and like if you do a squat or a deadlift they'll look at you like you're crazy, even though if we are smart boxers we understand that all the power comes from the ground up, and like I can literally punch without my arms and it'd be stronger than if I just punch with my arm. But anyways, because of that there are some weaknesses in the understanding, and that's why I don't believe that this concept gets taught very often. I've never seen actually someone teach it this way. I'm sure someone around the world has figured this out and utilized it, but it's certainly not a common tactic. But okay, I'll show you what I mean, right? How can I make my reach longer without actually making my reach longer, right? So you see my feet, they're not moving. Maybe I should make this a little better so you can see a little bit more of my feet, so you know I'm not tricking you. So my feet aren't moving. When I'm establishing my range and my opponent is establishing my range, there's going to get to a point where he's essentially downloaded, if he's competent, either passively, like subconsciously, or actively, probably both, about where he's safe. And only a very minor point of that is actually looking at like the distance of like my fist to like my body and seeing like that's the distance. And the reason for that is because it's not always outstretched unless I'm someone who does like a lot of framing and guard manipulation, long guard stuff. Like for the most part, like you're only getting a glimpse of it, and also it's going to be from the front. It's very hard to see like how far that actually is. But what you will see is you'll see how my body looks, the rest of it, like my head, my torso, my hips, my knees, how bent they are, like my feet, how far they are apart, and my opponent will get to see like, okay, so if this is about how far I can punch, which it is, this is like my standard jab, and this is distance, like when I'm in a standard stance, he's safe if he's outside of that, unless I make a movement. So then he knows that he has to look for a movement, or if he sees me like bend my knees or like make a step, like that's when his cue is that he needs to move. But otherwise, I can't hit him from here. But I can, and I'm going to demonstrate that why. How? Wait, I need to fix this again. Sorry. So just look where my jab is. Look at the range, right? Right. You see how far it is. Make a mental note on against the backdrop, how far that is, right? I'm just going to turn, so you're going to see it in the front, right? Not changing anything, just spinning. Do it a couple times. Did you notice it? Why is my reach so much shorter? Wait, it's long again. What did I do? You understand? You see that? You see what I did? See? That's all I'm doing. Very hard to detect, especially you're not going to detect it when it's an active punch, right? From this side, which you'll never be at, because my opponent gets to this side of me, I fucked up so bad that I'm already losing the fight if he can get to the outside of me. So he's not going to see this either. But all I'm doing is retracting my scapula, extending it. From this side, you'll really be able to see what I'm doing, right? Extended. This is about regular. This is retracted, and this is extended fully, right? So this is about normal, comfortable. This is retracted, comfortable, extended. So just by doing that, I could theoretically feign that my reach is this long, still punch like that, and then all of a sudden gain like 6 inches of reach. But really, it's more like it'll be more like 3 because I'll be punching like this, and then I'll have that extra 3 inches, and that's without even moving my torso. I mean, if I want to add my torso out like that, I can get further, but that's not so practical because the whole idea is you want to be further away from your opponent than he can attack you. And if I'm moving my torso, well, now he can attack me at least in my face because I'm moving that closer. Maybe my lower body is still back. And there will be some punches that will break this rule, like the Tyson style, like up jab. Like we'll move the torso like that. You see it from here. Whereas a regular jab will just look like that. And, a couple other punches. Most of them will incorporate some level of movement with them because you don't punch completely stiff like this. But you do get into battles a lot where you're at range with somebody, and especially when you get more advanced and you're doing things like framing and guard strips, like I'm pulling down someone's guard, right? This is like the concept of the 1-inch punch, right? Like, okay, so this represents my opponent's glove, right? And I just can't hit it, but with my outstretched fingers I can hit it, right? But strip it, right? Strip, punch, and that's one way you'd actually apply it. In general, though, I'm just always jabbing like this, and then every once in a while, I add both of them, like the movement, shifting my weight and my torso, and that extension. Now I'm adding like more than 6 inches to an effective punch, and even the 3 inches that I get from this to that, like you can understand how it's valuable because if you saw on a the pre-card stats, the ledger that has all the stats on, I'm forgetting the word, I'm blanking. But all your opponent's metrics, like with their reach and all that, and you saw like they had a 3-inch reach disadvantage, you'd be like, oh fuck, they're in trouble, right? So it's a good way to fix that, and should probably add how you can increase your mobility because a lot of people are going to have trouble with this. A lot of people are going to have trouble even figuring out what I'm doing when I do it. I'll represent again. Like if I'm doing the full way down, full way forward, like what am I actually doing to do that? Most people, like if you just tried it, you'll be rowing and you'll be wait, I don't get it. It's a row without any flexion of the elbow, and you're just rolling back with the scapula. The muscles you're actually using are like your traps, your rear delts, your lats to kind of pin it down, and other little musculature of your scapula. I think you'd be using your rhomboids too. There's an associated musculature of the upper back that you're using a little bit of the neck and the shoulder girdle, and all this. And how you most people have very bad mobility. This is another thing that comes from the strength and conditioning world that hasn't made it to boxing so well, but they're good at it in the strength and conditioning world, is understanding mobility and range of motion and increasing mobility for things like powerlifting, or decreasing range of motion for powerlifting is more often, but in training they'll increase it. Anyways, especially Olympic weightlifting, you need to be very mobile, especially like internal external rotation of the shoulders and all this. So you need to understand how to actually increase your ability to, probably not so much to pin it back more, but to go from like a regular jab to extend it out. But you might want to be able to pin it back, and you never want to train just the extension without the retraction of a movement pattern. In isolation, you'll come up with imbalances anyway. So you need to do both for mobility and strength exercises. So the two kind of biggest bang for your buck exercises to fix this mobility, if we're thinking along the lines of stimulus to fatigue ratios, which just means like how much you get out of something um, versus how much it tires you out, like how much resources it takes from you. That can be time, energy, the whole kit and caboodle, calories, all of it. Would be the two main ones to retract would be like band pull aparts. You can do this with a cable, and face pulls. Um, for the also just rows in general, but you need to be like, especially like the bent over like dumbbell rows, but you really need to be able to like at the end hold your lat there, like concentrate on the top of the motion, things like that. I said two and I gave another one, but and then the reverse is true, like presses, like overhead press with trying to extend, so you can see it, like increasing range of motion overhead press. Like maybe if you can only get there, then you try to get it to there, then you try to get it to there. So like overhead squats will help with this. You go very wide and then you go more narrow as you get better at that. Um, Something that's kind of a mid step for that, but it helps the entire body. This is one of the best exercises for almost all sports. Would be the front squat. In the back squat, you have the bar on your back and you're in this stance, right? And you're gonna put your butt back and bend more with your hips and you're a little more folded over. That's not really an athletic stance, right? Front squat, you're up like this. This looks more like what you'd be in like for football or rugby, whatever, and for boxing because you're up like this, right? That's where you're going to be. You're not going to be over like this unless you want to get clapped in the head with an uppercut. And what it really does, because you might be thinking, why would a squat help my mobility in my arms and my back and my upper back? The reason why is because the what the front squat helps is a postural defect that's called kyphosis of the thoracic spine, which is just rounding of the thoracic spine. This has a couple associated bad postures with it, like forward head posture, because people become telescopic. They elongate their head forward so they can see forward as this gets exaggerated. There's an associated pelvic tilt and other problems, but your body works as a system. If you have a problem in your ankle, sometimes 10 years down the road, people go to physio. They broke their ankle 10 years ago and they go to physio for a neck problem. And physios are usually pretty bad, so they don't figure this out, but very easily, but they will eventually realize, oh no, it's because you fucked up your ankle, so then you fucked up your gait, so your knee fucked up, your hip fucked up, then it all went up and it pathologized all up your body. Now you have 18,000 problems where you need to address it at once. So what the front squat does is it fixes posture because it forces you to be up like this. If you have a bar on your deltoids, it'll drop if you're not doing it. Forces you to get like this. You're also extending, you're putting mobility into your scapula, right? I mean, theoretically, like that's what you're doing. Like you're just stretching like this, which is similar to what you're doing with these other exercises. And you're fixing the curvature of your spine, especially your thoracic spine, which applies to basically most sports. It's your posture, and it's the most common posture people have issues with because this is what would develop if you sit at a desk all day, like typing over a computer, because you're gonna be like this, if you're on your phone, you're walking on your phone, that's what happens. That's a modern day illness. So that's why that's so common. Um, Bench press, it's okay for pressing motion. I prefer the overhead press because there's problems with bench press. That's probably another topic. It's not a bad exercise. It's just people do it incorrectly and they do it in isolation of other things that they need to do. And so I would say the best ones, like I said, just like band pull bars, face pulls, some kind of progressive front squat. You can, if you just look up tutorials of how you can scale a front squat, like if you can't hold the bar up here, like any weight, you'll find ones where you like wrap straps around the bar and pull it up so you don't have to go as far. You can make it so you can progress this over time. And then like an overhead press and maybe like a progressive inward stance overhead squat from here. It'll get harder as you get closer in because you need more mobility to go back like that. That's probably sufficient for this video. I'll just make other videos on mobility. They can probably be it should really be its own mobility and strength and conditioning videos. It should be their own separate category. But just to give you an idea, I mean, if you tuned out after I stopped the drills, well, you're not hearing me speak right now, so it doesn't matter. But that's okay.